In the last episode, we showed you what a Python program looks like, and we drew this interesting shape simply by repeating a simple drawline operation. So you can see what it's doing is that it's simply drawing a line multiple times, and by changing a few things, we generate this nice looking shape. Now, repeating steps to accomplish a task is really at the heart of programming, and if you grasp that, you are well on your way. Now, we want to show you how to learn how to accomplish these common tasks in programming by building small programs, learning to program the way you learn to drive a car, which is learning by doing. So that is what we did in our last session when you watched us build a small program. And I hope you picked up a few patterns, like us repeating something 200 times. What did we repeat? We fundamentally repeated this process of drawing a line 200 times. You also learn how, while we repeated the step, we change something at every step. For example, we changed the color. We changed how thick it was. We changed what its length was, and so on and so forth. Programming is really more like constructing something from standard parts. So you do need to know some of the key building blocks and know what they are called. Now, to be honest, you can learn how to build things without knowing the technical name for every part you use, but it helps, especially in exam questions. So in this session, we will explain to you the basic building blocks of every Python program and what they are called. Now, remember, in a programming language, a sentence is called a statement and a phrase is an expression. Well, the statement is a basic building block of any program. And although you saw many statements, this is a statement, this is a statement, you will have noticed that statements tend to have a different form. Now, what are those different kinds of statements you see in any program? The first kind of statement you will see is something called a compiler directive. And in our program, this was the compiler directive. It basically it doesn't do anything in here, but what it does, it tells the compiler to fetch something, to do something. In this case, it fetched a piece of code, an object that was written by somebody else so that we can use it in our program. Now, the second kind of pattern you will notice is something called a value expression. Usually, it is some kind of calculation that results in a value, but it doesn't always have to be a number. It can also be a string. Now, what are the value expressions we saw in our program? So in our program, you can see these are expressions. This is calculating something, and the result of this calculation results a value which then sets the width. Okay. The same thing here. This is an expression. In this case, it's not calculating an arithmetic thing. Actually, here it is doing some arithmetic to get the index. But what it is doing here, it is fetching a color. And then using so the return value of this expression is actually a string from this array. And using that color, whatever it gets, it's assigning it and changing the color. So this is another type of expression. Here's another. Now this is an arithmetic expression where it's basically adding something to something. And this is a value expression too, except it's actually just a number. So that's the value expression. Then you will see the last two are really the most common that you will see, and the kind of things that really do the bulk of the programs. What are they? One is a variable assignment expression. Now, what is a variable assignment expression? It's something that assigns a value to a variable. Where do you see that? Well, anytime you see an equal sign anywhere, that is a value expression. So what we're doing here, for example, in this one, this is a variable called colors. and you see an equal to sign, and it is telling us that, okay, what colors is, what happens in this container is it holds this list. So that is what a value assignment expression is. We will cover more what variables are in depth in a next video. So coming back to the kinds of statements, the last kind of statement you will see is something that defines an action or a verb. So it's either or uses or initiates an action. So this is either a function or a method call. So where were our functions and method calls? Did we use them in our program? This is a function. We defined what drawLine meant. You see, the Python doesn't have a verb called drawLine, but it does have a way for telling it what it means. And this is where we told it what it means. So we defined the function. And over here, what we did was we used a series of statements to define what it is. Now, when you drew this, how did it know that it had to execute these statements to draw a line? Well, when you indent something and you put the lines in here, a series of statements which is indented in Python, the indent indicates that this is the block. So whenever you indent something, it means that it belongs to whatever is happening in front over here. By the way, this is a value expression too, okay? But basically here it means, okay, well, we'll explain what it means when we use the variable. Now, this is the place where we actually call the function, where we use the verb. But you can recognize all these method calls or method definitions whenever you see some parentheses in there. So we have seen all the different kinds of statements. And the grouping of statements is called a block. There are 3 kinds of blocks, and in our program that we did, we have used 2 of them, and I'm going to show that to you in a moment. A function definition block and a repeat block. There is also a conditional block that we have not used here, but we will use it in another episode. So let us look at what blocks are. How do you recognize a block? Well, when it is a series of statements and you see something is indented like this is a block. So we said, remember, there were 2 kinds of blocks. One kind was a function definition block. And we already saw that a function definition block begins with this. You can see the DEF and then the name of the function and the parameter of the function. But this is the block that it's going to execute. What is the other kind of block that you see? You see a repeat block, and we have seen this in our program too. How do you see a repeat block? Well, a repeat block, this is our repeat block. You can recognize, once again, the indent indicates it's a block, but you can detect the repeat block when it uses 3 kinds of keywords that you will see. The 3 keywords you will see for repeat blocks are a for expression, a while expression, or an until expression. So we have covered statements, the different kinds of blocks, which is a function definition blocks, a repeat block. We've covered assignment statements, but we will cover more in detail what variables are and the different kind of values that exist and the functions you can perform on those values in our next part of episode 2. So see you there.